So after our Exploring Monastic Life program, we had one request by one student if the monastics here could share a little bit about their decision to ordain and the reason. Yeah. And so I would like to start that conversation. And maybe that is a source of inspiration, and maybe it also answers some questions of people who wonder how could somebody possibly make the decision to live in a monastery, to live without a family, to be celibate for their whole life, and to have no entertainment and no career and all that. So in my case, I have to go back to when I was a teenager, and I felt really confused. And when I was in 10th grade, I knew I had to find some meaning here for making it through school, finishing it in a reasonable way. And I knew somehow school will finish, and what I'm doing then. So the only answer I got from the environment I lived in was, serving society, helping others. So I did not grow up religious in any way. In fact, as some of you know here, I grew up in East Germany, and there was only less than 5% people religious. So most churches have been closed during this time of social communist politics, so to say. And I'm not sure, most people have been socialist communists, so I'm not sure by choice or by force. So anyway, my parents have been nothing, not socialist, not communist, not religious, so I had no real vision in life. And after the wall fell down in 1989, that changed. So people could explore the world and see that there's a life beyond socialism, communism, beyond the wall, so to say. And in my mid-teens, I explored different churches in Berlin. With one friend, we walked from one church to another to see if there's a refuge for us, and also other communities, but I could not find it. And then when I applied for university to study social science, on my way out from the building, after the application, the first process of application, one had to go through an open-air second-hand book shop, so to say. And I was with a friend. And so we looked at the books, and then he grabbed one book, and he bought it, and he handed it to me. And he said, you will read it later. And it was a book on the Four Noble Truths, a Pali translation from scriptures from the Pali tradition. So I read it, but I did not understand it very well. So I knew I need some kind of commentary to that. Some days after my start of the studies at the university in Berlin, I went through that open-air book shop again, and then I looked, and then there was another book on Buddhism from Kalu Rinpoche explaining Buddhist practices, especially focusing on purification practice. And I got really stuck in that book with the explanation on the purification practice of prostration. So I read that explanation and said, oh, that's really good. And I started immediately practicing prostration. So soon after, I heard about a Tibetan teacher in Berlin, Lama Gerlach. He was a young Tibetan who taught us basically the same meditations that we do here, how to develop a motivation, how to do the prostrations, and how to do calm abiding analytic meditation, and then the dedication. So we did that twice or once a week. And at that time, I was very joyful and hopeful, and I looked at more sources in Berlin, and there was a lot at the time, more than 50 Buddhist centers and temples and all that, and at least more than 20 in the Tibetan tradition. I think and visited at least all 20 of them. But I got stuck with especially one, and that came at a very good time. So I studied in the Tibetan tradition more and more literature, and had some experience with a Tibetan teacher there, but the meditation was not for me deep enough somewhat, and I got stuck in the Zen meditation. And it came in a time when I entered university, and I felt fairly overwhelmed with all the topics that the professors threw at us focused on human societies and politics and social structures and processes. In short, on the empirical and theoretical examination of the structures and processes of intertwined social systems, institutions, and individuals. That's the definition of that study project. And so, but I did not even know myself. So I went there with not knowing myself and being exposed to this huge topic that I found totally confusing. And on top of that, I thought Germany is so big and rich on political and social systems and processes that I wished I could have been born or lived in a small country like Switzerland, where you only had to look at a small area. And so it was kind of explainable, but I was not. So I tried to understand myself in this big mess of complex structures and processes. So the meditation in the Zen tradition helped me very much to calm my mind, just to sit there and breathe and to be aware. But there was not much explanation to that was sufficient for me. And then I discovered one book by the Dalai Lama in German. I'm not sure if that's an English title as well. I haven't seen it. The Logic of Love. And drawn to the practice of loving kindness by that time already, I thought that is a book. And indeed, it was a book that really opened my eyes and helped me to sustain my practice in social science. And he spoke basically about the applied practices of compassion, love, nonviolence, and how the personal transformation supports the society, supports the societal processes. And so I found an explanation of something that I was missing in the science. Yeah. So I continued studying and exploring Buddhism more and more, and deepening a little bit my meditation practice. But then while I was studying that, I also read that monastic life is one of the most suitable paths to study and practice the Dharma. So I developed with him, I thought, oh, this is really something I'm interested in. I would like to do that. But there's the reality of life. I was deeply attached to my partner, to my boyfriend, and I was also attached to the life I had at that point. And even so, nearby Berlin, there was a monastery I wanted to explore. And I visited a couple of times and stayed there for a little bit. And I immediately wanted to ordain, but my boyfriend said, no, don't do that yet. Finish your studies. So I did. But I knew deeply within there's something I wanted to explore, and did not give up throughout the whole study time, and then also when I started work life. But I still had also a lot of attachment to the relationship, attachment to the life circumstances I had. I was even attached to the town I was living in. I loved to see these huge buildings, stone brick buildings, and they gave me a sense of safety and all the familiarity being in that city. But then I looked a little bit closer and I started to reflect, and I realized that actually my relationship will not last, will not stay as fresh and exciting as I experience it now. And also the city will change. The buildings will crumble, and life in the city will change. So there was already a lot of immigration going on, so I did not see the same people every day, but more and more also foreign people. That was very new for me. So things already changed a lot. And then while I was working, I learned about the Tibetan Center in Hamburg. And that was the first time really where I saw that there's a monastic life that seems to be somewhat functional. But I wasn't there yet, so I didn't really know. And then when I moved to Hamburg and worked at the Tibetan Center and studied there, and I realized that actually these nuns are not really working and practicing together as a community. So then I learned that I would not receive monastic training there, and decided to come here to Sravasti Abbey, where I could receive a training as a nun. And 10 years later now, I feel very happy having made this decision, because now I know what it means to live as a nun and to be a good nun, what it means to keep your precepts, how to keep your precepts. And I feel very firm and very grounded in my life as a monastic. So I basically found the roots I was looking I was looking for earlier on. I found the roots in Buddhism, a lot of explanations that I could not find in society, that I could not find at the university or from these highly knowledgeable professors. I could find them within Buddhism and within my own practice. So I'm also much more content with myself, and I know much more of who I am now than 10 years before, 15 or 20 years ago. And so I have much less confusion. I'm much more grounded, more peaceful than I have ever been before. And maybe I'm a little bit more of benefit to others than I was as well. So I could say, or one could say, that I maybe practiced applied social science by going beyond these empirical and theoretical examinations of the structures and processes of intertwined social systems, institutions, and individuals. And but by reaching into the heart of the matters, so to say, yeah, who could be more happy than the enlightened ones, actually. Thank you.